Let's go to the phone lines. Welcome in our guy, Tom Murphy. Tom is going to be covering the College World Series this weekend in Omaha. Tom, have you made it down yet, or are you getting down there tomorrow?
No. We came up last night and had dinner, and I'm ready to roll.
Where'd you eat?
We ate at a Korean grill. It was fantastic.
Awesome. Keep some updates for our fans that are making their way down there. So, Stanford, that's your opponent. 1 o'clock this Saturday. We'll have it here at ESPN Arkansas at hitthatline.com. Tommy and I kind of talked it earlier. You lost them earlier this year, 5-0 in Rotten Rock. Loss didn't really mean anything. This Stanford team's the highest seeded team remaining in the College World Series, and it's the highest seed that'll has the 2 slot. Tom, what are you expecting from this team that Arkansas faces off against on Saturday?
Well, their right-handed pitcher, Williams, who I think the Razorbacks will see, was the pitcher of the year in the Pac-12. They got a ton of 300 hitters. I think 7 of their regulars hit 300, and 2 other guys are at 297. They got about 6 guys with 50 RBIs. They are a tough hitting team. And the guy, Quinn Matthews, who beat the Razorbacks 2 hits through 6 innings, I believe, 2 singles, by the way, he's now their closer. So I think they're a veteran team with power up and down the lineup, and it's going to be a challenge for Connor Noland. But the way he's thrown the last couple of starts in the postseason, it's almost like he's caught a second wind. And if he gives them another start like he's done the first 2, I think the Razorbacks will be in solid position to win their opener.
This feels like a game where you're not going to be able to depend on the home run. You should have better pitching, but you got a bigger ballpark, which will put the pitchers at ease. Tom, it feels like if you're going to have some success, you better have some patient at bats rather than be quick like North Carolina was, and have a Gregory type at bat where you find your way on through some walks and maybe get lucky and get hit by a pitch here and there and manufacture some runs. It feels like one of those games where you might win it 3-2 or 2-1.
Well, that's a great point, and I don't know if the Razorbacks are going to modify their approach, but yeah, you do need to be a little bit more selective and drive pitches that you get that you feel like you can drive, but sometimes those turn into long fly balls in this part for sure. So I think you're right, and that's something I think that will serve the Razorbacks well. That they've got guys. I think the bottom of the order, the Battles and Stovall and Gregory. Mm-hmm. Obviously it set up the winning runs in this super regional clincher against North Carolina. But I just think that right now they feel really confident in whatever part of the order is coming up in an inning that they can stir something up and get a run in. So, and who knows if they can get Robert Moore on some type of a roll, they could add another power bat to their lineup and be really dangerous here.
Yeah. So if you were reseeding bracket 2 that Arkansas's in, Stanford, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Auburn, and we were reseeding those, how would you place these teams heading into the College World Series in your estimate, 1 through 4?
Wow. It would be hard. I mean, Stanford ended the season, y'all, on a 16-game winning streak that got snapped in the regional in the loss to Texas State. So it would be hard to take away them being the top seed of these 4. And then you add in what Auburn just did, winning a series at Oregon State. Mm-hmm. That is difficult. And then Ole Miss is, ever since they left Arkansas, they have turned it on. And they did not allow a run. If I saw those scores right, Southern Miss did not score against them at home in 2 super regional games. And then, of course, Arkansas, they went in and took care of one of the hottest hitting and home run hitting teams like Oklahoma State, and then took out a hot team in North Carolina. So all 4 of them are playing great, but I would definitely have Stanford as the number 1 seed. And after that, man, it's almost like pick them out of a hat. But I probably would go Arkansas, Auburn, Ole Miss, simply because Arkansas won their series against those other 2 teams.
What did you think about Mitch Thompson getting hired by Baylor, and maybe the impact it could have on Nate Thompson, Tom?
Yeah, we've been keeping an eye on that. and the fact that, Nate Thompson's getting to the point where he could be in line for some jobs. And the Kansas job was open, and I think it's been filled. I was driving yesterday. I think I saw some wind of that, but that was something that could have been, up his alley, so to speak. For Baylor, if you're Mitch, do you bring your brother on, or do you consider bringing your brother on board? I don't know if, nepotism rules and things like that come in. Obviously, Nate is very well qualified. So, I really don't know. I haven't spoken to Nate on those topics, but you've got to know that his success in recruiting and his success as a hitting coach here, and he's, involved in the defense big time too, that the opportunity for him is going to be out there and probably quite soon to be a head coach.
So you'd spoken to Nate. I know that a few people got to speak to Dave Van Horn yesterday at their send-off prior to them leaving. He seemed confident. He seemed happy to be there. And Arkansas fans were pumped. What do you think Dave's thoughts are heading to where his team was 3 weeks ago and to where they are back in Omaha?
Well, in the short term, it just has to be really satisfying that the losing 4 out of 6, or 6 out of their last 8, that they've rallied from that and gotten here, particularly on the heels of what happened last year. I mean, Tennessee has shown us that uneasy lies ahead that's been ranked number 1 almost all the season. And, Arkansas just happened to catch a North Carolina State team that had a bunch of power hitters and a couple of pitchers who, kind of put it together at the right time. And they won the one-run games against the Razorbacks. And then Tennessee just happened to run into a Notre Dame team that was ready for the fight. So I just think Dave has to be really satisfied that they rallied the way they did in this postseason, because we knew it was there all year. We knew it was there. They were ranked in the top 10, and it just happened that they kind of floundered right there at the time to clinch your home regional, and now that they've done it on the road against a couple of teams in Oklahoma State and North Carolina that were both national seeds, speaks to the fact that they can beat anybody up here. I mean, they could win this whole thing. Our photographer Charlie and I were talking on the way up. Any combination is possible. 0-2, or as they say, 2 in barbecue, and hoisting that trophy at the end and having the big dog pile. It's all out there for the Razorbacks.
So what's the one thing that has to go right to avoid an 0-2 in barbecue and maybe be eyeing that trophy the following weekend with the championship series? Is it as simple an answer as starting pitching, Tom?
I try to think real fast about that. I do think that the pitching depth it's got to be available. They've got to get quality innings, because I think their pitching numbers might be able to match up to anybody up here in terms of the number of guys they could try and get quality innings out of. And that's a question for Dave Van Horn when we talk to him the day after their practice is, what do you make of, who would be your game 2 starter? Is it Will McIntyre now as it was at North Carolina? Is Zach Morris now you're a starter? What's the role of Jackson Wiggins? And it's not; these aren't bad problems. These are positive things that they found that they've got depth, and different guys can be in different roles, because it looks like Hagen Smith is potentially a closer now. Maybe the left-handed closer to Brady Tygert's right-handed. So I do think that if they get the quality innings out of, say, 8, 9, maybe even 10 guys, then that could be the key to riding themselves to a title.
And for those that aren't as familiar with the format, Arkansas plays Saturday at 1, that I think most fans are familiar with. Win or lose, you'll play again Monday. You win, you play the night game, and you avoid the heat of the day that I think is going to have a factor in Omaha. You lose, you play in an elimination game at 1 o'clock on Monday, or at least that's the schedule. You win your first 2, you play Wednesday, and if you can win your third game, you're off to the championship round. That's where it gets kind of uneasy or uncertain about what you do with your starting pitching. If you go win, and then you had a loss, you got to turn around and play again on Thursday, and then you're starting to think at that point, well, how do you set things up for a 3-game series that would start on Saturday? So, you don't get the cart too far in front of the horse. But, Tom, if you're looking at the bracket and the way it lays out, you can see where some potential potholes might be when it comes to figuring out who's going to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this team is well suited if they happen to have a loss along the way to, rebound from that because of the different guys they could start. And that's what was so excruciating about 2018, that they were perfectly set up the way they got through in 3 games to reach the championship round. And they had Knight and Casey Murphy and Isaiah ready to go, and there was a rain delay. Oregon State had a loss, and if the championship series had not been pushed back a day, I really felt that was Arkansas's College World Series to win. And, that was going to linger with Razorback fans for a long time. I think about it a lot, and you wonder if Dave Van Horn and staff do as well, that one was so much, it was right in their grasp.
Yeah.
And their pitching was set up.
Yeah. You just wonder, with Arkansas playing its first game on Saturday and the schedule being the championship round would start the following Saturday, even if things go well, could even a Connor Noland or a Will Mack, could you get a third start and expect much out of anyone? Now, I know when you get down to the end, all bets are off, but, 3 starts out of one arm in, less than 10 days' time, that's asking a lot.
It really is asking a lot, and I think that, if you ask Connor Noland or Will McIntyre, they would tell you they would be prepared to do that. But how sharp would they be on that third start, and at what risk to their arm and their futures are you putting them? So those all come into play, and I'm sure there's some data involved in their pitch counts and their effectiveness, and they have to rely on those types of things. But, there's some untapped arms that are on this roster. Gabriel Starks pitched a little bit. There's Heston Toll and Elijah Tress, and at various times those guys have been really sharp. They haven't pitched as much in the postseason, but when I'm talking about depth of arms, these guys are on your roster. They've gotten outs against SEC teams before, and at times when you have to go deep, these guys have had to be relied on, and if they come through, that's what I'm talking about in depth of pitching that could go in Arkansas's favor.
Tom, we'll leave it there, man. Appreciate you joining us. See you in a couple days in Omaha, okay?
All right, sounds good, Ty. We'll see y'all.
All right, Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, joining us this morning from Omaha, where the Hogs will play on Saturday at 1 o'clock. You can hear the game right here on most of these stations you're listening to.
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.